Warning: the following content may contain elements that are not suitable for all audiences.
Welcome back to Win the Night. I am Josh, and I'm with Dayon once again.
Hello.
I did want to ask you a couple of questions. Everybody knows you. Everybody, everyone in the world. No, but the at least the Win the Night audience has gotten to hopefully see your episode and a little bit about you. You know, your couple things that we didn't hit on before was when you came on last time and we had a conversation about growing up with you and what it was like as a kid and moving to the States. We didn't hit on what the conversation we had after, which was the thing that you said that stuck out to me was I want to help people was what you said at the end of the episode that we filmed last time. And I asked you how exactly? And you were mentioning that, you know, with your experience of having moved over here and kind of feeling lonely of like kind of on your own.
Yeah.
Not having a great relationship with your parents.
And then when I came here, literally nobody to talk
not
to.
having friends in high school really to hang out with. What is it? Have you thought about what you really want? How it is that you want to help?
I guess I don't want people to experience what I experienced because that feeling it carries over through the years. So I don't want people to have that type of feeling. So if I could help them in any way, like teach them, talk to them, like people can always hit me up because I know how it is to feel lonely, want to talk to somebody, but you have nobody to talk to. So I'll always be available to everybody.
I want to ask you about, like, for example, what was it? Did you know specifically how it was that you could help in that way when you moved on to this project?
I guess, let's just say by me explaining my story and my choices that the choices that I made, people can see where I came from. So maybe they have a similar beginning and then how my choices led me to this type of outcome.
Where you are today.
Correct.
That makes sense. And so far, right, you've been with us for now, I'd say a couple months.
Correct.
Months, yeah. So far, what have you learned?
What do you mean by that?
Like, I'm sure when you came out here, you were like, hey, I want to be able to help people not feel alone. Right. And so by jumping on and being on, for example, Reddit,
I guess help them express themselves better. Cause like really make them open themselves. Because how should I say? Let's say I have an injury on my arm and it's like very deep, but I'm only showing you the outside surface. You can take care of the outside surface, but deep down there's still an open wound. So
is that something that, do you find yourself working on that for you too? Or is that something that you feel like you've gotten a hold of and you're like, hey,
I think I got a hold of it so far. So I don't really have to worry that much about it. Like I do be sad like everybody here and there, but like I know it's just temporary.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You mentioned you were watching, we were just talking about this, that you had watched the Disney movie. You said your daughter was really into the what's it, Inside Out?
Inside Out, yeah.
Yep. And you had mentioned to me that like you wanted to check it out to see how like what it's all about, right? Because I mean, I'm sure as a father you want to
be included somehow.
Be included in your daughter's life and in what she's into. And so since she's into this movie, how has that, it sounded like to me, and this is just my opinion, that it did challenge you a little bit. Like you were like, oh, you know what?
Oh, I was losing my mind. I didn't even completely watch the movie. I could think like first 20 minutes or so, I was just losing my mind because of the sadness character, man. Because I guess I could see basically my life in that movie, like how sadness affected like all the happy moments. I'm like, oh my god.
What do you said? Okay, do you see yourself like? Why did it make you that upset, that character, when set the scene up? What specifically like made you upset about that one?
So basically, sadness had no place in like happy moments. There shouldn't be any type of sadness in a happy moment. Like, let's just say you have a happy moment with like a good friend, and that friend moves away or passed away. I guess then you can actually bring like kind of sadness, like, oh, I really miss that person. But when everybody's there, there's no, how should I say? Everybody's happy. Everybody's still connected. Just perfect moment. That thing just comes over and just grabs it. I just hated that with a passion. I hated that.
The moment you said that, I thought about that, like, that kind of like response is because of like, maybe have you experienced that where like you've tried to be happy and someone has come in and like ruined it? Has that happened for you at all?
Basically, yeah, but the only person that ruined it for me, or for the most of the times, was me. Just overthinking things and just literally made something good worse because of the way I was thinking.
That makes a lot more sense. So then, what do you think is the next move for you on that? Because I would recommend, or I would think what would be a good idea is say like, what can I do? Why do you think that happens? I think I should ask you first.
I guess I wasn't like that emotionally mature. Cause like everybody has feelings, but like knowing how to deal with them, it takes a lot more work per se. Cause let's just say when you text somebody and they don't answer for a long time, they're like, what's going on? Like, did he see it? Did he saw that message and didn't want to reply to me? Is he actually busy? Am I annoying him? Yeah. Everything just comes all at once. So I kind of have to like basically repeat to myself, me and him are good friends. I treat him with respect. I treat him well. I mean, I would expect to be the same in return. So I know that no matter what I feel, knowing what he is to me and what I am to him is not going to change, just based on feelings.
And so I'm trying to understand that one a little bit better. So
how should I say? Let's just say you're like in a relationship with like somebody for like 5 years. You have a very good grasp of how that person is, correct? So let's just say she's not answering your texts or your calls. And let's just say there might be like a little feelings over there, like, what is she really doing? But you knowing her for so long makes you just cancel that type of feeling because you trust that person.
Right. That makes sense. And so is that something that that you seek in friendships and relationships?
I mean, yeah. Wait, what do you mean by that? Something that I seek?
The level of trust that you can.
So it's not that I seek for it. It just happens.
Okay.
I mean,
is that I'm a little bit confused. Are you saying that that's something that you've had to work on? Is that level of trust in people?
No, it just what I was trying to work on, it was something to cancel those feelings. Because
cancel how?
Well, I could drink my feelings away and then just kind of put them on hold.
Right, but that wouldn't be a great idea.
Correct. Or I could find like a greater meaning that's actually positive.
And what's the positive for you? Like, what's the thing that you look for?
Trust. Definitely trust.
Okay. So moving on to being on here, you came up with this Reddit idea. Okay. So where did that come from?
So in Romania, we had the same kind of concept of Reddit, but in a different way, different name, different everything, but it's basically it's the same thing. You would have like issues with something, or oh, how do I find this? And people would answer you, or oh, I'm dealing with this. What should I do? So basically, the same concept as Reddit. And I know I found myself on that website a couple times. So I did receive like a bunch of good messages from people that actually helped me. So I just want to grab all those answers and everything that made me change or be better, and then just pass it on to the next person.
That makes sense. So, well, we've seen this before, right? And in the Marine Corps, I've seen this of like passing knowledge of have you ever heard of, you've heard of it, a hip pocket class, where it's like, hey, go teach a hip pocket class, because the rule is knowledge is no good if you aren't passing it down. Like if you're the only one who knows it, it's basically useless, because once you're gone, your knowledge is gone with it.
Correct.
And so they were in the Marine Corps, we were always talking about, hey, rising leaders like junior Marines, teach, if you know something and you feel like you could pass it down, it'd be useful for everybody, take out your notebooks, start talking about stuff. Right. And it's a leadership development style of teaching. It's
correct.
Like, I have to keep learning. Go for it.
Yeah, because my thing was like, that's a good way of saying, but I don't really believe in that, because I do believe that you should be the best in every area. So you should have like all this knowledge about this piece of equipment, this piece of equipment, this piece of equipment. So I don't like just sharing things. Like if you really want that information, you're going to seek out that information. So I'm not just going to tell people like something that is useful to them, like unless they're seeking that out, because it's just going to fall on deaf ears. That's my belief of it.
And so, in a way, I guess you're not. I was thinking, like, aren't you kind of doing that in creating content? But people would be looking for it, wouldn't they?
Correct.
So then,
but no, that was my old mentality back then. That's how I was. Like, why would I share it with you?
I got you.
Exactly. Like I took the time out of my life or my free time and learn about these subjects. So why can't you do the same? You know what I mean? Like, why would I basically tell you in a couple minutes what it took me hours to learn? You know
what changed your mind?
It's a selfish thing to do. It's just a selfish thing to do overall.
Just over time, you thought about it and you're like,
yeah, like it's useless for just one person to know the information, because like you said, when that person's gone, so is the information.
Now, one thing that I want to say too is one of the things that I've noticed you work on, and this is just my observation, is from the very beginning, you were like, you know what? I don't want to accidentally say something that's going to hurt people or it's going to bother people. And maybe I say it the wrong way. And I remember that was a concern. I think that's a valid concern. I think about that all the time. And I suppress, just like anybody else that has a camera in front of them. I still do it. Like I still suppress some of my, certain parts of my personality. I don't include in more serious conversations, or in, like, for example, like the way you and I are interacting now is different when the camera's on. And one of the things that we talked about is that, like, there's a fear of, like, people are going to take it the wrong way, or they're going to be offended by it. And it's like, but honestly, you and I were like, you know what? Like, and Jake, we were talking to you like, dude, just if you feel it, if that's what you think, the worst thing that can happen is that you change your mind later down the road, just like you just told me now. You were like, I used to think this way. And then I did it. And by saying it out loud, I realized, like, oh, actually, I don't really believe that. Or actually, I don't feel the same way about that as I did when I thought about it. Or like when other people get involved. And like for me, my my thing is I definitely don't swear at all when I'm on camera. I just feel like it's not
correct. I'm trying to like restrain myself, like
exactly. Like there's that. I think there's nothing wrong with like saying, you know what, we want to make this as welcoming to as many people as possible, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But also, if you're one of the things you are working on and you're getting better at is saying your opinion. I think this is the biggest thing that the Reddit thing I saw do for you is you were like, you know what, this is what I think, regardless of maybe I don't think this tomorrow. And that's okay. That's what I think.
Correct.
I think the biggest thing is we're all here learning how to.
Yeah, because you're gonna get knowledge throughout the years. So your answer today might be a way complete different answer from the answer 10 years down the road. You know what I mean? Like your answer is always gonna get better.
Yep. And that's something, and I think like what we are trying to do is also communicate that of like, we are also learning. We're not matter experts. We're not sitting here like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm Dayan. I'm a therapist and
I'm a subject matter expert.
subject matter expert in all things life. Like it's just not. We're not here.
I'm basically God.
And like, to be honest, the reason why do we feel that way? Because that's how we've seen people interact with it. I've seen it happen. Like when I watch other YouTubers and it's like talking about, oh, this is what I think about this subject. And I see in the comments section, like people go, what do you know? What's your qualifications in talking about that? It's like, you can't talk like you can't talk about anything that you aren't an expert in. And it's like, how do we learn? Like, how can I become better at anything that I'm talking about if I don't talk to somebody else and then hear someone's opinion different than mine?
Correct. I mean, you don't have to like actually have to go to school to be knowledgeable in a certain area. Like for example, what is the word when you like give like talking in front of people, like give a speech, not a speech, but like
Pep talk?
no, not pep talk. It like when you have to talk in front of like large group of people, like what's it called?
Motivational speaker?
Not really like a speaker. Like people are not like I'm not comfortable in speaking in front of like a group of people. Like I'm just
Speaking to an audience.
Yeah, I'm just like. So I guess. Yeah, you're gonna feel like that the first time. You're gonna feel like that the second time, maybe less the third time, and then the more you do it, the better you get at it per se.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm still getting better at, but I've noticed that's why I wanted to talk to you specifically about this. I know originally we were talking about doing like the more of the Reddit stuff, and we'll do more of it. But and Jake brought this up too, and it is important that you are part of this team, right? And so as a part of you came up to me and you were like, hey, I want to participate in whichever way that I can. That was originally what you had said. And so I do think I know when we first talked about, I don't know if it's what specifically, like you're like, you know, I don't want to focus too much on me, or is it just that it's like putting you on the spot? Like what specifically were you like, you know what, I want to hold off on it? Or maybe is it too much pressure to just be like, hey, talk about you, go.
Man, how should I say this? Like I'm not really pressured. Like I don't feel no type of pressure when somebody asks me. I'm not fidgeting around or doing stuff like that. Like I'm not nervous about talking my life and stuff like that. It just I cannot think of something unless you ask me. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Like I don't know. I was one thing that I'm really bad at to this day is basically come up with an idea like on the spot by myself, like writing a paper. The thing about me is 100 ideas come at me at once, so I'm having like a horrible time trying to like put everything, because like the one movie or a cartoon is basically looking in the horizon. You just have like all these words and like you're trying to find something, but all those words are moving and like there's so many. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So when somebody asks me like a pinpoint specific topic, it's very easy for me to talk about.
That makes sense. So you do need like that idea to be kind of the idea to be planted, and you'll grow the idea. Is that right?
Correct.
That makes sense, because that's kind of when you brought the idea, it was like, hey, I want to focus on this thing. And then so far, I mean, you've done pretty good. You already gave me like a whole thing yesterday. You were like, hey,
Yeah.
let's talk about this thing. And then today we were talking, before we even sat down and had this conversation, you were talking about, hey, like, what if we did stuff about this and this, like, I think that's very good. But I do think, like I said, it's important that, that as a part of the team, you get that chance to be like, hey, like I would love to work this out and do this.
Right.
And so I kind of just want to give that platform to you of expressing where it is you'd like to take it. You don't have to sit on it. If that makes sense. Like, you don't have to be like, I have to do this exact thing the way I said I was going to do it then. And it's like, because like we just talked about, that idea could evolve. And that's exactly what's happened here. When I started this podcast, it was not like the conversations, like I did not at all expect that we would have like a secondary part of it, like branches of it. Never. When I sat down, I was like, I'm gonna just talk to people and ask them about their lives, and then that's what we're gonna do. But then, you know, you joined, and dude, it's even better than I thought. Appreciate. So with that, where do you see this? Have you gone beyond like just like the Reddits? Do you see this evolving any further than that?
So what I'm trying to get like from the most of the Reddits is things that people struggle a lot with every day, like the main common things, like family, work, relationship, the other stuff. So I'm trying to help people deal with those problems, like the main issues, and then maybe down the road I'm gonna find a better way to express everything or help people even more. So just starting slowly, learn from it, and then get better from there.
Do you see, because right now it's just you and me,
Correct?
Do you see it being like you're gonna sit down with different people? Do you have,
I don't mind that. I do love talking to people.
and like running it that way? Because like I don't mind helping you, sitting down and us telling our opinions, but I just wonder, do you see yourself like sitting down with other people and like asking their questions or asking from their experiences, or how do you see that going?
So for me, what I would think I would be doing a better job in is, I guess, doing second episodes with people, because how do I explain this? When I hear somebody talk about their personal life, one thing that differentiates me from somebody else is like I can see through your words. Like you might be saying this and then you keep going on with the subject, but like you maybe missed the part where you could ask like, well, what do you mean by that? You know
Like you're saying that you can notice when people are evading, like
Basically.
I see what you're saying.
basically. Like I'm pretty big in, I guess, not reading people, because like I'm not a magician, you know what I mean? Like
No, but I do think that I feel like I have a sensitivity to when I'm. The thing is, I don't think it's a superpower. I think it's truly like a trauma in me of like noticing when people's behavior shifts. Like let's say, for example, a friend that I've talked to for a long time suddenly starts behaving differently.
Right.
And it's like, that means something. What does that mean? And so then they'll say something to me like, I've heard this is a very common evading tactic, when like somebody has wanted to not say something directly. And this is one of the things we talked about, you and I, about the difference in the Romanian culture versus the American culture, where it's I personally, just from experience, just from talking to you, you're just more blunt. Where with Americans, it's just very common for you to be nice, like,
And I don't
which
like
is
that.
not authentic. Like nice is like glamorized. Like you should be polite, even if you don't.
Like you don't have to be the Mr. Perfect the whole time. You can tell somebody how you feel, because it's useless for me to tell, like, something about you in a nice way and then go behind your back and tell exactly what I feel about you to the next person. Like, why can't you just do that to me?
And that's a conversation that you and I have had. That's like one of your biggest pet peeves is like, if like, for example, you have a problem with somebody, like, why can't you just say it? Like,
Correct.
tell me, hey, I didn't like that you said this or did. And I think my answer to that is because it's shamed for you to do that here. Like, if you go up to somebody and you go, hey, like, you were really rude to me when you said blah 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 blah. I think the problem is, and I've done it too, is sometimes I'm accusatory, like where I'm hurt, and so I believe that you said something, the way it made me feel was your intention. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Like for example, like let's say you were talking to somebody else, and I came over and I said something to you, and I said, hey Dan, do you think we could hang out, blah, 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 or something? Maybe I'm trying to make plans with you, and you're talking to somebody else, right? And so maybe you're trying to not be rude to the other person, and maybe you don't say like, hey, just give me a second, like I'll talk to you in just a minute, and you just kind of like blow me off. Then I'll be like, hey bro, like you are not a good friend, right? And suddenly I run with my story about how that made me feel.
Right.
And so the problem is that we haven't figured out how to do that in a less accusatory way of like, hey, I felt like I felt dismissed, right? Even though that's not, I don't know if that's what you intended, but I wanted to ask, like, why did you say it that way, or what did you mean by that? I think like if we learned that, we could be more blunt of like, hey, I wanted to ask you what you meant when you said this, because I felt like this, right? And rather than saying like, you lied, blah, 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 blah. Like there's a difference in that, because I'm telling you what you said rather than what you actually intended. So I'm putting words in your mouth.
Basically.
So that's the problem, I think, is like we shame people. You're like, ooh, well, you're a bad person because you told me I was a liar, and now you're making things up about me. And suddenly it's this back and forth of no one hearing each other. See, so like, how is it different in Romania that way? Like if you're blunt, let's say I'm offended by something that you said. Hey man, you the way that you talk to me with the other group of people, like you're being really mean. Like, is that how they come up to you, or how does that work?
Basically, or they will just call you on the spot.
Really? Like, give me an example of what that's like.
Like, no, they would just cut you like mid sentence, or the person who's speaking. Like, if I have a problem with you and somebody's talking to you, I'll cut that person.
And how would you take that? Like, the
way I would say it is, let's just say, I'm not going to approach you like that unless I know for a fact that what you did something wrong. So there shouldn't be any, like, let me try to be nice, like beat around the bush. Like, no, I'm going to give you my feedback, and then it's on to you of how you're going to receive that. Because, like, you obviously did something wrong. Now, are you going to play the victim, or are you going to assume that?
And what is the typical response? Because with being more blunt,
you're gonna get the
same energy back, right? Does that result in more fights?
Not necessarily.
How does that resolve itself?
I guess the other person is gonna give you the same energy back, and then you kind of slowly de-escalate. It's just gonna happen. I don't know how to explain it, but like, if you come at me hard, I'm going to come at you hard back. And then the way we're going to explain, like, oh, but what I did this. And then like, oh, I didn't realize you did this. So we kind of like slowly de-escalate.
Oh, that's interesting. You start at 100 till everyone starts burning out.
Basically.
That's crazy, man. No, I'm not saying it like in a way of like, hey, you guys are crazy, but that's it's similar in some ways to like the military culture of like, if I have a problem with you, I'm just going to tell you I have a problem with you.
Okay, but they're just being assholes about it. Like,
you think
there's
what's your experience? What was your experience with that?
Oh, well, words are going to start coming out, and I don't want to say those type of words, but they're just being jerks to you like there's a way to address it, that problem, and there's a way for me to be a dick about it.
What's the
Like,
difference?
I would say the main difference is one is actually addressing the issues and kind of trying to see why you're doing that, compared to you just a fucking piece of shit, point blank. Nothing to ask you about it. You're just a piece of shit. That's it.
So that's what they would say to you, like you're
Something like that. Like that's how they just communicate. I mean, obviously not everybody's like that, but like there's some people.
it's
who
more
just talk
often.
like
It was
that.
more often than not for you where that was the case, or someone.
Yeah,
would
just
call it to you.
mostly higher ups because they have rank. They think
You could talk down.
exactly.
Right. Right. So it wasn't. Do you think that when, let's say, for example, what is the expression like in Romania? Like, let's say, for example, communication skills compared to in the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, we lack the ability to say like, "Hey, this bothered me because A, B, and C." Like they
Correct.
just immediately go to like, "You pissed me off, and you
You're a
suck,
bitch."
and yeah, and you suck. Like, and I hate you." Like that's more what you experience.
So I guess when you have to, how should I say? So when you're in the military, you can definitely relate to somebody who's in the military. But if I'm bringing that military side of me to a civilian, it's going to be a very bad outcome because they don't get me like you get me,
Yeah.
per se.
Yep.
So I guess you have to find like the, how should I say this? Know the time and place or the person you talk to.
That's the time and place makes sense. And also, but like, how do you compare is there ever a resolution in the way in Romania, like where you guys are? You said you just de-escalate and then there's an understanding.
Yeah, there's
or
always
like
an understanding for it. Because like you get to the point after you start de-escalating and then talking through things, you're actually getting closer.
oh, I see.
So it's not like, oh, you pissed me off. Now we're kind of understanding, and then we're just like that. Like we are getting closer.
And then after that, is that just how you deal with? Do you just stop having those type of arguments once you get past that, or do you?
Yeah, like once we bear the hatchet, is that how you say it?
Yeah, bury the hatchet.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's done. Like what is done is done. If you're not gonna do that again, there's no reason for me to bring it up.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, I might bring it up just like to play with you or tease you, but
Sure.
like definitely not in a like a mean way.
in a mean way. Yeah, that makes sense. So I have a question about how you would raise your daughter in handling situations. Do you think it is different for the Romanian women than it is for the men?
No, they're blunt as well.
They're blunt as well.
Everybody's blunt. There.
Okay.
I guess what I don't want her to be is like, for me, like for my job, like they talk down on me, but like I don't really care about that. Like don't really care to bring it up because you're not worth my time.
Well,
Because like, look, I do accept when I'm wrong. Like I do accept that. I do take it with a grain of salt. Grain of salt.
yeah.
Yeah, grain of salt. So when I mess up, like it bothers me, but it doesn't bother me like for people like, oh, it bothers me 2 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm back to normal. Nah, it bothers me for days. Like my mess ups are impact me in a bad way because like I actually think about it, I actually feel it. Like you're not just like, oh, I feel 5 minutes and then like I'm better. Like I actually carry that thing with me today, the next day, the next 2 days, and that's it until I understand that this needs to stop. That mess up is not going to happen again.
It's a thing that I can relate to I'm a perfectionist in that way. And I tell you this all the time where I'm like for example, where I was setting up this mic, just when we were setting up this thing, I was like, it needs to like moving it needs to go this, and this. And that's my perfectionism. So I can relate to that. I am curious though, like, is there, like for me, I had a bad experience with where I used to work. I was talked down to a lot. I was talked to in the way that you're saying, like I'm stupid. And so at some point I was like, yeah, not only Is it not healthy? Like I just pay too much attention to it. If that
Mhm.
makes sense. Like I will, if somebody tells me I messed up, just like how you said, I'll think about it. Like the
Yeah,
rest,
think about it.
the rest of the day, if not the rest of the week. And I will try to do it as perfectly as possible and then get recognition. Like, is this the way you were saying? Like, is this what you meant? Like, I'm, and if I don't get that, I get really stressed. Like where it sits with me, like just, I can't make, there's nothing I can do to make this person happy.
And not only that, but like in the military, it would just be like an avalanche. When one thing goes bad, the next thing goes bad, and the next thing, and you just out.
So then,
So that's why I was like also stressing me out in the background, because like if I have another thing like this, man, I'm gonna be down for a little bit.
and so then, how do you manage? How do you manage that? Because I was very depressed when I was in that environment. I was very sad, very like I felt like down here, because when you're talked to that way for a long time, you start to believe it.
Correct.
I started to believe
Me too.
it. I start to believe that I'm really bad. Like I'm really bad at my job. And so then you kind of just sit in the corner and try not to make noise. That's how I dealt with it. And then I realized I don't feel good here. Like I feel like I am being targeted. Like I feel like I am being like, so everyone is focusing their anger on me.
Correct.
And I'm like, I can have nowhere to go. So then I had to leave. So how do you manage that?
So when I get talked down to, like, first of all, I will try to see, is it really my fault? Like, I'll take it first as it is my fault, and then start thinking about it, like, well, that was not my fault.
Mhm.
And then I would try and explain that. Like, sometimes I don't even bring it up. Like, oh, I just got the ass chewing. Like, I'm not going to bring it up again. Like, I don't care. Like, I know that I was not in the wrong, so I'll just keep it like that. And then next time when it happens, I'll bring it up. Like, oh, you doing this like you did last time. I'm like, actually, no.
I'm ready for you. No, I don't have that. Like for me, I'm like, I need to.
But for me, is like when I know I'm getting targeted, I'm like, okay, I'll prove you right. Like, for example, for my job, we have to fix a certain amount of trucks per month.
Mm-hmm.
So at my peak, because we're like 4 mechanics, at my peak, I would do half of those trucks in a month and then extra things. So now they're like, oh, you're not doing this. Like, look, I don't need you to kiss my ass, but just recognize the work I put in. Because when you don't recognize that, I'm like, okay, you really think like I'm not doing crap now? Maybe last month, because we have like 60 trucks. I don't even know if I did 10.
Right.
Like, you know what? You think of that on me, I'll prove you that. Because like, there's no reason for me to like, look how good I am. Look how good I am. If you just keep ignoring me.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I'll quit eventually.
Right.
Like, I'm actually on my way to quitting right now. But in the meantime, I just do this until I'm done.
Right. Well, there is a thing that people say is that you don't quit your job, you quit your boss, right? Like you quit your manager. And I believe that. I think that at the end of the day, like I'll
still be in that job if we would have different management. I was 100% still be in that job.
If you had different management. Yeah. I mean, based off what you told me, right? And I'm not going to get into too much detail just because I understand you're still involved and I don't want to start anything for you. But just the things that I heard is enough for anybody to justify being like, I can't be here. It's not mentally good for you to be there.
Yeah, it's definitely not good for you. But then, like, I do question myself, like, is it actually too hard or am I being a bitch about it?
What?
Because, like, I don't be like, oh, he didn't say good morning to me. I'm going to quit this job. Like,
but are you saying that?
Nah, like...
Is that what's bothering you? No, really, like...
Nah, they don't do stuff like that. But, like, they keep doing stupid things over and over. Like, I'll ignore you this time, I'll ignore you the other time. But like, obviously, it's after some point, like, bro, relax.
Because I'll tell you, based off of what you told me, right, in conversations we've had off camera, it sounds like it's abusive, like the way that you're talked to. And that's not you being upset because they didn't like, I'm mad because they complained that I didn't install something correctly. Like like that could potentially be dangerous to somebody. Like that would make more sense, right? Like being
I understand that, definitely
sat down and being like, hey, this is how this was supposed to be done, and we've already done training on it. We've talked to you about this before. Then that makes sense for them to be like, hey, like we need to make it not be abusive. Like that doesn't, even if you made a mistake that like was like a absolute worst thing you could do for the company, even if it was violated every safety procedure, it's still not a reason enough to be verbally abusive to your employees. So you can't just at no point is that acceptable for a manager to be verbally abusive to an employee. At no point, even if you did the worst thing, right? So we got that cleared.
My biggest thing was like, okay, talk to me like that. But the thing is, I would see him do exactly what he said not to. And then when I tried to correct him, he would just start bitching me out. I'm like, bro, you're in the wrong here. How are you going to punch me for you being in the wrong? You know what I mean?
And accountability for leadership is like super important. And it's, and if you don't, as a leader, if you don't have that anywhere you go, you don't have accountability of, I always had the assumption, and this is what could hurt you if you're an employee. If you think, if you're in that mindset too deeply of everything is my fault, because that's how it was for me. And I had a hard time being centered in that mentality.
I mean, I don't, because like I would feel the same thing. Like, let's say I'm in the leadership position right now. My workers are gonna be like an indirect reflection of me per se. So, like, I'll take care of my people. Like, I'll try to help them as much as I can, because if they fail, I fail them. It's not like, yeah, they failed it, but like I ultimately failed them.
And that's how I see it, is they're a reflection of my effort. Correct. How I see it. Like if they failed because they didn't know something, it's because I didn't teach them that thing, or because I didn't work hard enough to make sure that they knew it well. And but there's a balance. Like for me, as what I learned as a manager, because I was also while I had leadership in the Marine Corps, a lot of that leadership knowledge came from outside of it. It came from the civilian side, being a manager and being in a leadership position of, there is a point where you go, okay, if I failed this person the first time, right? Like let's say they messed something up that maybe you taught or maybe you didn't teach them. But either way, when they mess up the first time, I'm not going to go and say like, hey, you should have known better, blah, blah, A, B, and C. I'm going to discipline you, because the assumption for me is like, what did I do everything that I could have done to prevent him from falling into that position? And if I've already, what I need to do is I need to sit him down and go over it with him, practice it with him, make sure that this person knows the thing, and then watch it play out. Right. And at some point, at what point do I draw the line and say, hey, I've done everything I can to help this person, and this person is either not willing to do it, like doesn't care enough to do it, or just has an inability to make that connection. And so then at what point do you draw the line? And that's where I sometimes struggle with.
Yeah. So one thing I would personally do is, obviously, people are good at different things. Right. So in one job, they might be terrible at doing this part, but they're extremely good at doing this other part. So I'm like, okay, like I try to help you be better at this. I try to help you with that. I try to show you, but you just don't know. You're just incapable of doing that. Like, you know what? I got you. Like, I'm gonna put you in something that I know you're more or less good at, and then you can be better at that. But if how should I say? You know, like the saying, "Iron sharpens iron."
Mm-hmm.
Like if I grab like a good piece of metal and then, like for example, rusted aluminum, it just literally disintegrates.
Yeah.
When I do that, so I'm like, there's no point of me doing that to you.
So
I'm just gonna change your what do you call it? Environment. There you go. I'll change your environment so you could be the best in that environment. Like you're bad at this. Let me see if me putting you here is gonna make you be better or worse.
that's a good strategy. That's actually, I wish in a company that was more of that mindset of like multiple departments that we can move them around to, and hey, maybe he's not good here, but like, what is he strong at, and focus more on that. Because I think one of the things that I don't like about specifically work cultures that are very like manual labor type, there's a lot of like mentality of, if you don't know this, you're just a bad worker. Like if you're not good at like everything here, you're just a bad worker. And there's not the mindset of where can they be good at.
Correct. But then again, they're just people who haven't been introduced to certain things. Like people who, how should I say? It's like, for example, changing your oil, right? It's a simple thing. Just people were never put into a situation and they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to expect, because I seen that firsthand when one person at my job had like his engine leaking. And they're like, "Oh, do you have some tape for this?" I'm like, "What?"
Right. And to
like,
them,
you cannot put tape on something that's liquid, especially oily, because it will never stick.
and that probably to that person, if they haven't been around.
Exactly. Like I do not like, look, I thought like, I'm not going to sit here and lie, but like, I thought they're like actually fucking stupid. But then I'm like, they're not. Like he was just never introduced to that type of thing. So like, he doesn't know better. So like, I cannot blame you for something you do not know. Because that's not fair to me, because you didn't grow up like I do. You were not put in the same situation like I was put in. So like,
I have a perfect example story to feed off of that. I overheard, this is when I knew I needed to leave my job. So I used to install cable TV.
Make sure you drop the company name and their names.
No, that's all not necessary. We don't need to ignite that flame. I remember like there was a point where I was like, these people don't care about me at all. Right. And it was when I had become a manager, right? I was very excited to be a manager, because I was like, for some reason, like, I don't know if it's because of how I grew up, where my environment was chaos, and like I didn't have any control over that. And so like being a manager, like I can change things. Like that was like my mindset going into, and probably why I do this thing with the podcast, is the seeing things that could be better, that I wish I had, that maybe I can provide for other people. It's the same thing that you just told me about for the reason you do the Reddit stuff, right? And there was a conversation I overheard between my boss's boss and him, like in private. And it was, I had made a decision with a tech that went out to do a job that like not really any of us had ever done. It was like new. It was a new part. We were installing like a radio, like a, in buildings,
like 5G,
not 5G, but like extenders, like the extenders for reception in buildings. Cause you know how like industrial buildings have really thick walls.
Correct.
So you don't get good reception inside the buildings.
Yep.
So what we started doing was we started to install the radio, the extenders in the buildings. And what you do is you go to the to the roof,
like an amplifier, basically.
That's right. And so you install the antenna outside, and then you run the cable down, and then it all connects down to there'll be like it's through cable, right? So like it connects and splits in different directions, and that's where like the nodes are for like the where the phones will connect to instead of trying to connect to the towers. So so anyway, we were doing one of those, and everyone was new at it, and I was by myself, right? And so on Sundays I was always by myself, and I had to make decisions based off of what I felt was best. And because this was new, I was like, hey, like the tech was having a hard time installing it. And like, I couldn't go out there to help him because no one's in the office and there are techs that have to come. I have to be present for when the techs come back, and I have to monitor to make sure that they do this processes right. They refill all their stuff and make sure that they handle that properly. Well, so my decision was, hey, we've been there all day. We still haven't figured out like how to install it. I can't go out there to help you. And I think that we're wasting resources at this point, right? Like you've been there many hours and you still can't figure out how to install it. Let's just reschedule it, because I would rather reschedule it and do it right than to get there, be there all day, like, and
still don't accomplish anything.
Don't accomplish anything. And so now the company has spent money on paying you and also not getting anything done. So let's cut our losses. Let's let them know, hey, we're going to have to come back, and we'll just do that. And so that was my decision. It felt like the most reasonable thing. And so I said, hey, let's just leave, and then we'll have to reschedule. Well, that comes up in our reports when that stuff happens. And so then we had already had like several cancellations that day, because sometimes people can call in and say like, I don't want service. And it's an automated call. So like, let's say, for example, you're taking a while at another job, and so you're delayed, and so your time window gets pushed back. An automated call will go out, and that customer will receive a updated call list and saying, hey, we will arrive between this time and this time. If you'd like to cancel, press blah, 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 blah. So it won't be a human being. Like they could just cancel the appointment, reschedule the appointment just from the automated voice. And so when they do that, it hits the office. Like it hurts our numbers when they do that. If they hit cancel and we lose that job, then that goes against our score. And so we're trying to prevent as many cancellations as possible. And so when jobs go down, right, it's a big deal, especially when there's less jobs. Sundays were not as busy. So there was less jobs. So if one job went down, we could only go a maximum of 3 if we had like a regular work day. So in weekends, the most we could do is 1. Like on Sundays, like most we could lose is 1. And I think we had lost 3 that day. Jeez. And so, so then anyway, that happens. And so I'm like stressed at this point, because I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to tell them we dropped the ball on that one. And so then I tell them, and I tell my boss, and my boss like, well, what could we have done? Blah, blah, blah. And we talk about that. And he's like, yeah, he's like, that stuff we gotta really like hammer down, like people calling customers rather than letting the automated voice do it. Let them know I'm going to be there at this time. Like I'll take care of it. And it's like, we have to avoid that and blah, 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 blah. Right. So I got the whole spiel about that. But then my manager's manager, so my boss's boss, was talking to him about that. And I overheard the conversation on the phone because it was the next day. And he was like telling him, like, are you serious? He's like, why didn't he go out there and go and install it with him? It's like, he's like, that's common sense. That's what he told him. He's like, that's common sense that if a tech is going out there is having trouble and we can't have jobs go down, like it's common sense that you go out there and you figure it out with him. And it's like, okay, if that's common sense, then what would you have said if I was out in the field helping him?
Exactly.
And they came back and I didn't watch a single tech set their vans up properly for the next day, and then that's messed up the next day. You would have complained about that. And then
like it's something that no matter what you do, you're still gonna be in the wrong.
I didn't have enough resources, and they were trying to blame me for not being able to be everywhere at once. And that was the biggest complaint that I had, where basically it was like, is he like stupid? Like that's pretty much the question that was asked. Like it's common sense. Is like, are you serious? Like how? And he was like, the way he was talking about me behind my back versus when he talked to me in person was entirely two different things. I can't handle it. If you, like you said, if you feel like I could do something better, help me. Don't criticizing me is not enough. You have to
just talking smack. It just doesn't.
That's what it is. At the end of the day, like it's like you said, like talking shit. Like that's what that is you are not helping anybody by talking down to your staff. These are your people. If your people fail, you fail. That's automatic. And so then if that's how you feel about your employees, like why would anyone want to work for you?
Exactly.
That's why I left. Super long story. Apologize for the delay, but that's the applicable part of when my boss, where I realized they don't care about me here. Like they don't care about my development. They don't care about me progressing. They just want me to provide numbers with as little effort from them as possible. That's what that was.
Yeah, like I had this job I was working for as a boilermaker.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like if one of your boilers will leak or something like that, I'll come and fix them. Mm-hmm. And my boss was so cheap. Mm-hmm. Like he would charge a lot of money, but then we're literally working with tools from like 1950s. And then as I was working with that piece of shit tool, that thing fucking snapped and I hit my rib like very bad on like, I can't remember what the hell I hit it on. Like some piece of like pipe. Cause like the thing broke or I was trying to tighten something or loosening something. And then when that thing broke, I lost my, what do you call it? My stability. And then I'm like, boom. And then came back. I'm like, hey, like I hurt myself. Is there like, what's the procedure? Like, I want to get this checked out. Mm-hmm. And like, oh, just call this number. But the guy who I was working with, they asked him, did he really get hurt? I'm like, I literally showed you. Like my whole rib was like bruised up.
Yeah.
Like really showed you. Like, what do you mean did he really get hurt?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is like hurting. I'm like, you don't give a crap about me or my well-being. And then I was like working. I was like, man, fuck these things. Because like I got better. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll put that in the past. And then I was just getting fed up with working with those piece of shit tools. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck this job. I'm done. Like, I'm done. Like, look, I don't expect you to like put me on a pedestal, but like at least give me the things I need for my safety. Or like, I understand if you want to buy me like brand new steel toes every whatever so often, but like at least give me tools that would not break and injure me.
Yeah. Do you think, and this is just my opinion, but I want to see if you actually believe this, is do you think that we, like in general as a society, we operate from distrust? Like you have to earn my trust first. Like I don't trust you until you earn it. Because I personally think,
I don't know, but like the thing that I do see is like people, like for example, your boss. Obviously, your boss is not the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
So why the hell you care so much about a fucking job compared to you caring about another human being?
He actually said this. He said it in an interview that he said that he was that he was like fully immersed in the company. He's like I am like part of the blah blah blah. Like I don't want to say, because if I say what he said, I would be giving away what company it's from. But basically, what he was saying is that I'm brainwashed in like saying like I'm fully in. Like I bleed for this company. Blah 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 blah. And it's like, I don't think that's like, it'd be different if let's say, for example, it was a family company or
correct. Like we're working together and we're all actually seeing firsthand of results of our hard work. We're literally seeing firsthand that, but like being so like hardcore about it, bro, the CEO doesn't even know who the fuck you are. Like all these bleeding and like crying, sweat, tears, it doesn't matter.
But the problem I have isn't that. I would be fine if you were super like, hey, this is my life. Like, this is like what I believe in. This is what drives me. This is what I'm passionate about. But if that were true, why don't you invest in your people? Like, why were you so critical of everybody and not constructive? Like, why were you so deconstructive in your criticism of other people than if you were right solely immersed in this company? What you care about is you want people to make you look good. It's the same thing I saw in the military, which was I want the recognition, but I don't want to do the work that's required to take the responsibility of when things go wrong, right? So that and I think it's like a tactic, in my opinion, of not feeling guilty. Is like, well, I didn't create the plan, like wasn't a part of the design of the plan, so the plan is the problem.
Like, look, if what I do believe is, for example, you tell me this job needs to get accomplished, and obviously I have people working under me. Mm-hmm. I'll make sure, like, they will know to do that job. But if he fails, like, I cannot say they did it. I mean, you did tell me first. Mm-hmm. So I'll assume their responsibility. If something goes wrong, it is my fault. Like, ultimately, it is my fault.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I wasn't.
Because and a good example is for my job, after I complete the work order, I guess I forgot to put one thing in it, and it kind of like mess up some things. But in order for that work order to get closed, my manager needs to go through it, see if everything is right, and press close. Mm-hmm. He was blaming me. Like, look, I take the responsibility. I did try to find a solution about it. He said, no, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, so I have a solution for that problem. You don't even care to try it. You just say, no, it is my fault and all that. Said, like, look, I get it. It was my fault. I should have known better. But then again, I have 10,000 other things to worry about this job besides this thing. You press closed. Why? That is ultimately your fault.
Because he did the final inspection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how about we take some responsibility and then assume like, hey, you're wrong, but also I was wrong too.
Yeah.
I would respect that. But
exactly. Like the right thing to have done in that scenario is to sit down as your leader and be like, hey, we messed up. Like
exactly.
It's
not just you left and right.
Hey, like we did this wrong. This is what we need to do. I just want you to know because, hey, I inspected it. I said it was good, but it wasn't. And this is what happened. So like we have.
It's like it's his fault, not mine.
Right.
Like
exactly, because then it'll turn in. Because if you turn it into that, you're as an employee, I would not trust my boss if he blamed me for something he approved. Right. If he said like, hey, it's good to go the way you have it. It's fine. Dude, you're good to move on. And then the next day, it's like, hey, why did you do it this way? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like,
yeah, I'll have issues because like he will say, oh, if there's something that you work on that takes a long time, there's something that takes a little time to fix, just take care of the little thing first.
Oh, that's not the best idea.
Story.
Yeah, because
but the thing is, he'll say to do that. But when I was working on a truck, and then it would take a long time for it to get done. Somebody was struggling and they needed like literally 2 minutes of my help, just 2. And then I would get bitched out left and right. I'm like, you just literally fucking told me if there's something that takes a long time and something that takes a few minutes to fix that. I was trying to fix that. I was trying to do what you told me. Mm-hmm. And I'm on the fucking wrong. Because when I brought that up, it's like, yeah, that's not what it is about. I'm like, what the fuck is that about then?
Because like the problem I have, and this is people who don't know, like we've had the discussion about like it doesn't seem like your boss ever states like what actually is the problem.
Right.
It's always like
it's your fault.
It's your fault.
You're garbage.
And you know what I'm talking about. It's like no, like
bro,
what do you mean? And that's why I was saying like. Ask him more questions. Like, what does that mean? What do you mean by that? How can I do that?
I mean, that's what I said. Like, you literally told me this. What did you expect? And they're like, this is not what it is about. I'm like, what the fuck is it about? Like, you told me something, now you're going back to work. Like, these things do not apply when like it's good for you, like when it suits you. You say something, I'll go by that. Like, you don't get to choose when it applies or when it doesn't apply. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, well, that's hypocrisy, right? If it's like only when it suits me do I do correct things or say things.
There's like this saying in Romanian, is like, it was referring to a priest. Do whatever the priest tells you, not what he does.
Oh yeah, well, practice what you preach, or no, do as I say, not as I do. There you go.
One.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do. That's the one. Okay, so then yeah, that's pretty much the same thing as that saying.
But like hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think before we end it, I do want to, at some point we need to hit more on that specific topic.
Oh, I'm gonna hit them until I bring the building down.
because this is still ongoing, and so there is a lot to learn from that experience.
Or
because right, like this is a thing of like, maybe you just, it's a lesson of like, I need to stand up for myself earlier.
Definitely, because what I did, like, which kind of led me to other things down the rabbit hole, was all I knew about work is if I'm good at it and I take this responsibility, like, I would just get a promotion. Like, all that work doesn't go down the window. You know what I mean? If I'm going above and beyond what I'm supposed to be, I'm supposed to be recognized for it. And obviously, by me doing more than everybody else, but they're getting paid more than me or equal to me, that's not fair at all.
That's true.
Because of that, like, everybody in the building needed my help, so I have to stop doing this, help them. I'll have to stop doing some other thing, help these people, because everybody would just like chickens with their heads cut off.
Right.
Like, everybody was like, I need help.
And it's stressful for you because you can't ignore it, right? Like if somebody says like, I need your help, and you go, nah. And then you go, and then something happens.
Exactly. Then it falls down to me. Like, no, like, by me doing this, taking all the extra responsibility, I also fucked myself.
But that just means you care. And
That's true, but
you get punished for
exactly.
caring. And so, like, in an ideal, and we'll end it on this, in an ideal work environment, what do you think needs to be in place for you to have a good work experience? What do you expect from your bosses and your coworkers?
How should I say? I mean, for my coworkers, like, most of the times we are working on our own thing, but sometimes we do help each other. So that is good. So there's nothing to add to that, because we're doing perfectly fine.
Okay.
With just coworkers. But like, for my bosses, like, look, if I'm going above and beyond doing my job and doing all these extra activities, pay me for it, for the love of God. Or like, just don't expect me to do them anymore. You know, like, look, I cannot pay you this, but I'm gonna make sure somebody else does this, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Not just, oh, why didn't you do that? Like, motherfucker, I'm doing my actually first job, like my main job. I'm doing my main job. How are you gonna bitch me out for doing the other things that like I did start doing, but like I'm not getting bitched out for that?
Okay, so we said in an ideal manager role, you would want them to, if they expect you to do more than what your job describes, pay me for it.
Correct.
To okay, and then you mentioned another thing,
or like get me in the back end per se, like let me change my hours, or let me, I don't know, make it easier for me per se.
More leeway.
Basically.
Okay, so compensate you to some degree, not necessarily monetarily, but like at least give me more freedom.
Correct.
Okay. And then you mentioned something else that I thought was really important. I think you should add to that list, which was the part about like show more appreciation. Like if I like when I do things right, like acknowledge it. Like, how does that work for you? What does acknowledging mean?
Correct. Because like at my company, you're supposed to be doing that. Like, I know, but I know I'm supposed to be doing that. I get that. Like, I'm not gonna get like, you know, in the military, all those people, like, get NAMs left and right for doing what they're supposed to be doing?
For those that don't know what that is, NAMs, Navy Achievement Medals, are essentially we joke about that they get given away like candy because realistically, if you have connections, if you have like connections up the chain, like in administrative connections, you can have one written up pretty easily. And we joke about all the time. In fact, I've seen comedy skits on this specific thing of like trying to write writing a Navy Achievement Medal or an award in general looks like. And it's like, what did you do? It's like, yeah, I just took the trash out, and it's like, okay, so how many pieces of trash did you take out? Like 10. Okay, so like 50. Yeah, okay, 50. All right. So and then you just change the wording to make it fancier, like this Marine disposed 400 pounds of trash that would have otherwise been left, something to that effect, right? And so you just like beef up what happened. And that's a lot of times how it happens is that if you have people that like you and in the right places, they'll write stuff up, and you'll just see people with like a bunch of that award that maybe didn't deserve it. But like, it's not that you're looking for. What you're looking for is for when you do everything right, like it should be acknowledged of like, hey guys, like we did a great job today. Like we got everything knocked out that we were supposed to get knocked out. Maybe you do more. Hopefully you get recognized when you do more.
Yeah, because for example, like there's something wrong with the truck and I'm fixing it. It is my job to fix it. So I don't expect any like, woohoo, congrats. But if I troubleshoot that truck and like most people, let's just say they would take 1 hour or whatever. And I find it within the first 5 minutes, that shows my skill. So, like give me some, like, you know what I mean?
Right. So then that should be, I think you should add that to your list of like, in an ideal management position, you would expect that kind of recognition of like, hey, when I figure this stuff out and I do it faster than people, like I do, that's above your job, right? Like you are expected to figure it out, but does it make a difference? Which I think it does when you figure it out in 5 minutes versus an hour, of course, right? Like it makes the company more money. So you should be at least recognized at the end of the day, if not the next morning, like, hey, you guys did a great job. And this is what happened. Dayon, you did a great job here. Like maybe that gives you some leeway.
Correct. And then the other thing was put your employees first, not your company. Like, yeah, I understand that you get your money from them, but like, they're not your mom, they're not your dad. Like, you don't own nothing.
They'll get rid of you as soon as your employees start complaining anyway.
Easily.
So that's why it's important that you take care of your own, that you're in charge of, because at the end of the day, there's nothing else you have control over but that is like taking care of your employees. You can't control if the company tomorrow decides like, hey, we don't need you anymore. Like, but what you can control and could help you in that scenario is taking care of your employees. Because guess what? If something happens and it's like your employees like really care about you because you care about them, they're going to fight for you in those scenarios. Right. And I think that matters. So we'll end it on that. But there's a lot more to talk about because there's a couple topics that you brought up for the next episode. So we'll jump off that next time.
Sounds good.
Thank you for jumping on with me today.
Anytime, buddy.
All right.